Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I'm Wibbert and this is one of my builds. I'm doing this voiceover in the morning and I'm doing a bit of a slow zoom in from the region view so you could see what the region looks like these days. I just started recording without really having a plan of what I wanted to talk about, and when I did this build I started recording without really knowing what to build, but I did know, I do know what I want to talk about. At first I did some research. I dug into some SimCity files and tried to figure out how the game works a bit more, and what I learned is that it's basically I learned how the density of buildings is limited. So if you want to, for instance, have a skyscraper, you obviously want a building with a pretty high density, but in order to unlock higher densities you need four things. Well, okay, you need power, but you need power for any level of density, so you basically need three things because power is a given. The second thing you need is water, but you already need that for medium densities. So for high density specific you need both parks, so you need to have the lot. Yeah, so for instance in this general area I just built a big giant park because I wanted to unlock high density around this this new bit that I built last episode. So yeah, you need parks actually. So parks have a bunch of different purposes, and I personally didn't know that it's actually a requisite in the game. They limit. Yeah, so what I did is I looked at the Colossal add-on mod files in order to learn how it changes the game, because it does change the game, and it actually changes those values as well, I believe. I'm not sure. At least they are part of the override that they do, and that they might not really change the values. They might just have to be in those files because the something else in those files gets overridden. I don't know the exact things about it, but I do now know that you need parks. So that's a pretty nice lesson to learn, because I always thought parks were just for cap relief, and of course also for attracting wealthy citizens, but you actually just need a park nearby. It doesn't say how much parks, it's just a boolean. So what a boolean is in programming, a boolean is a yes or no statement. So do we have parks? And now the answer is yes, but if it's no, then we can't go above this level of density. And yeah, so there's these four things. So we have electricity, we have water, we have parks, and then the fourth one is fire protection. That's and for each of these, if the boolean is true, it ignores the value that is put into the setting, I guess is what you'd call it. But if it's false, then the setting imposes a limit on how high the density of a building can be. So my assumption, yeah, I think it's a fair assumption to make that whenever the game picks, so I think how the game works is it figures out that something needs to grow in a lot, and then it starts to do a check for these values and to see what kind of building the game can allow for, and then it looks up a building that is appropriate for the values that it has for like what density can we build here, and what kind of wealth level can we build here or whatever. And I guess it also looks at the RCI values, the demands. But yeah, so that's how you unlock high density. You just, it's pretty basic, and most people get that stuff just by default, because most people tend to just build some fire safety and some parks, and the power and water is a bit laughable because that's so the power threshold for density is actually 0 for at least for residential and commercial. I guess for farms it might not be 0. Maybe you have up to a certain level of farms that don't really need any outside power source. I'm not sure about that, and that might not even hold true with this what's it called, spam SimPack add-on mod. I don't. Why would you call a farming mod spam? Agricultural mod. Yeah, the SimPack agricultural mod. That's a farming mod that I have installed, which just changes the farming from an afterthought into something that can be a bit more impactful to your game if you want to play around those. I didn't do that in this city, of course, because I wanted to do a bit more of an urban city, but in this region I did have some towns that do a bunch of farming. Bobstown, for instance. I looked back at the region a while ago, and I was just looking at how I felt about the different areas that I built, and I think so far Nova Gothia is a pretty cool city, especially with this new build that I did. I don't know, I think these curves are pretty cool. I did figure out between recording this, because I'm of course experimenting for the next video already, I did figure out that some of the curves that I drew have an especially the fractionally angled 2 diagonal ones, they are not as smooth as they should be, and that is because I drew them or built them slightly in the wrong way. So I'm gonna be fixing that in the next video. I might just do one as a sample and then cut out or speed up the process or whatever. I should remember to do that. I'm somebody who can get pretty chaotic when I, especially once I've hit record, I just end up going for it. Yeah, so what I'm building now, I'm building a university, and as you can see, this is a modular university. So this is, I think these buildings all look pretty good. I'm not sure if they're actual high definition, but they're pretty well modeled, and they have a good style. I can't remember which mod that is, but you can look for modular university and just Google that and you will find this. And yeah, it's a pretty nice set, but I did not make sure that I also installed paths that work with them. And I did look, I cut out the part where I just scrolled through my menus for 10 minutes. But I did look for the paths, but I couldn't find them, so I'm pretty sure that I just didn't install them. Here I'm checking on my power plants, and the one that I built first is already starting to deteriorate a bit. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that. I'll probably have to replace that next video. So this is a bit of a park build that is gonna be the trigger for me to get some pretty high density stuff. But I also end up noticing that I need some more variation in my high density. I think the reason why all the buildings that I'm growing here are the same is because they are probably the only 5x5, because I did those 5x5 zones in that area because I do have a bunch of 5x5 buildings, but I'm pretty sure most of them just aren't that high in density. So they ended up, because some lower density ones did grow at first, but they are all being replaced by these skyscrapers over there. And yeah, I do like that I have more density, but this is only halfway through the ridiculous amounts of the same skyscraper that you're gonna see over there. And there's also gonna be one pretty epic building growing there. I did find out that I have some issues with that building, or had some issues with that building. So I had one growable. So there's two types of buildings. There's growable and ploppable. Growable buildings are the ones that you can just zone and then they'll show up, and ploppables are the ones that you have to put down manually. And this is then a growable building that has some transit enabled stuff, and they did that because they wanted to simulate it having an underground. It hasn't grown yet, but it will grow in like a few minutes. On the spot where those two big towers showed up that are a bit more spaced out, the diagonal ones. So yeah, here I'm just checking my services. I think whenever you see that you've grown a bunch, it's good to check your services. And yeah, we're still only at like 75k population. We're gonna hit the 90k in this video, guys. It's such a big jump. I looked at the graphs at some point. I'm not sure if I cut that out or not, but you can just see the graph, especially for medium wealth. And I'm not sure why that is, but I think the way the game works is that even with high-tech industry and high wealth commercial offices, they still require a large amount of medium wealth. They provide a large amount of medium wealth jobs. So in the end, you're always gonna have a bunch more medium wealth people living in unless you're doing very segregated cities or something. I don't know, with one city just having all the rich people. I don't know why you would do that. It doesn't make sense to me. So in general, you're just gonna not have as many high wealth skyscrapers in terms of residential, right? I mean, in terms of commercial, you might just get a whole bunch of high wealth stuff because they are also providing for medium and low wealth jobs. Not as much low wealth jobs, but they still need cleaners and stuff like that, right? So even high wealth offices still require the services of lower paying jobs. So I guess that's the logic behind it. So we're gonna be seeing a lot of medium wealth residential growing in this city. At least for this episode, I think it added like 20,000 medium wealth people, or maybe even 30,000. At least the graph for medium wealth people, I think it tripled or something crazy like that. So here we're already hitting the 80k. Yeah, that's a graph. Look at that. This is an explosion. So here I went into the night time for a little bit. Yeah, so I was talking about the transit enabled lot. It's already grown, it's in the top right corner. Yeah, here I'm gonna be showing it off a bit more. It's a pretty nice lot. It uses like the Maxis Park, the base game park. Yeah, the large park. Here's some of the Latin American wall-to-wall buildings. I thought they were pretty cool, so I made them historical. But yeah, the lot is transit enabled, and normally you use transit enabling for well, the base game only uses it for garages. So for a place where you can switch from car traffic into pedestrian and the other way around. And then you can build like a metro station or a subway station nearby to switch from the pedestrian into public transit. Yeah, so they made the building transit enabled, but they made some mistakes when doing that, because the setting that they used only gave it a capacity of 200 with a building that has yeah, so it's basically like it's a residential growable building that has like a parking garage, but it's not really a functional parking garage because the game doesn't treat it as a yeah, it wasn't set up as a transit switch, so you couldn't swap from car to pedestrian in there. So it was just a simulated parking garage for the people that live there. And it does have a functional driveway in that way, so you can connect the street at the front entrance for it, and people can use the cars over there. I don't know how well it will pass that. I don't know if they did that correctly. But the point is, they didn't give it enough capacity. So they gave it only like 200 capacity or something. And so I ended up noticing that. And the thing that happens with 200 capacity is that, well, what ended up happening, I think it started happening during this video. And then in between I did some testing and I noticed how the building got, at first it showed like a no job sign. And the no job sign, it can be caused because the travel time from the building towards the jobs is too long. It doesn't mean that you don't have enough jobs in your city necessarily. It just means that the people that are trying to find jobs based on that lot just have trouble reaching their jobs in time. And that was because it had such a low capacity that it instantly went red on my congestion view. When you have like the overlay for traffic and you look at congestion, whenever something's red, it means there's some bad stuff going on. Yeah, what is the consequence of having poor traffic or bad traffic? I think there's like a formula behind it, but basically what it does is it increases the travel time for that route or for routes that use those squares. Now, every citizen that lives in that building is going to use that building, and if the building is red, it means that they all get a penalty on how long they take to get to work. And I think it's a formula that's just based on the base capacity and the actual usage. And with the capacity being super freaking low, that ended up causing everybody to think that, we're just stuck in traffic all day. We're not going to be able to work when we live here. So the building ended up getting abandoned because of that. What I ended up doing is just modding the file for myself, I'm not really gonna upload somebody else's content. I think I'll leave a comment about it in SimCity, because it's a building from SimCity. It's a very nice building, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's just an issue for me, and maybe most people are playing with a different version, because there's also like a Colossal Atom mod version, I believe, and maybe that has different values. But I changed two values mainly. The one that I changed for capacity, of course, is the capacity value. I just changed that to 50,000. And you might think that's weird, but I just don't want it to ever cause issues that it has a parking garage, right? And I think it's realistic that that building shouldn't be derped out because it has transit enabled stuff. So yeah, there's just no way that it's ever gonna derp out, let's just say it like that, with 50,000. So I ended up deciding to do that. And here I'm struggling with this section again. I think I showed that last video as well. I'm just struggling how to connect this, and I'm really not happy with the result at the end of this video. I don't know, I think I'll do some more experimentations. I did experiment because I want to do the tram line. As you can see, I just started building the tram line towards over there. But at the end of the video I thought, well, it's been a while. I should probably think about closing this video off before I again have like 3 hours of footage to process. So yeah, I ended up leaving it pretty much over here. Yeah, it's just a bit more. So I changed the capacity of the transit enabled building, and I also changed there's like a value that accounts for how much time it would take to use, for instance, a station, because when you go through a station, there's like some overhead of time that you have to account for due to buying tickets and stuff like that. I don't know, or maybe just not having perfect timing between arriving there and leaving with the train or whatever. So that value I also nudged up a little bit, just to discourage everybody from just plowing through that lot, because it seemed like other cars were using it as like a shortcut, so that was a bit weird. I might have to up that value a bit more, I'm not sure. Anyways, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope this was informative, and yeah, leave a like if you liked it and learned something, and stay building. Goodbye.